Welcome to the first episode of the Pioneers of Possibility podcast, the podcast where we explore the lives of our guests that transform themselves, their organizations, and their communities for the better of the world. On our first episode this week, we have Suzan Neiger Gould, the Executive Director of Manna on Main Street, a food insecurity service provider in the suburban Philadelphia area. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our listeners, wherever you may be in the world. My name is Kareem Afzal, and this is our first episode of the Pioneers of Possibility podcast. Joining me today is our first guest, who I'm really exuberated that she has graced us with her time today to share about her background. Suzan Neiger Gould, the Executive Director of Manna on Main Street. Welcome, Suzan.
Thank you, Kareem. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Suzan, tell us about who you are today. Where do you work, and what do you do?
So I'm the Executive Director at Manna on Main Street. Manna on Main Street is an organization that serves households, individuals that are experiencing food insecurity. So that's kind of a fancy way to say that we feed people. We feed people through a market. We don't call our market a pantry. We have Manna's Kitchen, which is a kind of like a soup kitchen, but much more evolved. And then we also have a training program where we welcome people who are living in economic instability to come and be with us for 9 weeks and to learn culinary skills. And then we help them find jobs. And that's a free program. And so these are the kinds of things that we're doing to help people feed themselves and to provide them with opportunity. And it's a wonderful place to work because we are so supported by the community. It's just amazing to live in a place like Lansdale and the greater North Penn area in Montgomery County and be so surrounded by support and truly love for what we do. It makes you feel every day that you walk into Manna that this is where I should be because I am doing good along with the community.
That is really exciting, Suzan. You came to Manna at a time where Manna today is not what Manna used to be. Mm-hmm. And we're going to dive into some of your background and some of the life transformations that got you and Manna to where it is today with your leadership and its team. When you were growing up, what did you see yourself doing? Where did you grow up? Tell us a bit about your early years.
Yes, I grew up in Levittown, Pennsylvania. My parents are both educators. You know, they were wonderful parents, and they were educators. So they really valued the opportunities that were available through education. Also, both of my parents were pretty free of racial prejudice during the 50s when that was really rare for a white place like Levittown. And so I grew up really understanding the equality of humanity. My parents were very much committed to making sure that my sister and I, as well as my brother, that my sister and I had educational opportunities. I never grew up thinking that I couldn't do something because I was a girl. That is the type of formative experience that I had growing up, which really prepared me, I think, for service. And then I just did the normal thing, went to college. I went to Penn State.
Okay.
I got married and we had 3 children. And I spent a lot of time raising my children. My husband was in law school. And then I started teaching because my degree was in elementary education. During the summer, I worked at Camp Bonus. And Camp Bonus is a Quaker summer camp. And at the time, my parents were the directors. And over time, I became more and more engaged in that procedure or in that process and in the life of camps. And I just loved it because I really had grown up at camps every summer. Over time, I began developing some programs for camp and the board of directors, when my parents were ready to retire, I said that I would be interested in the position. And they were like, okay, here it is. It's yours, because I had begun to develop also off-season programming.
So I, kind of a disclosure, I spent 2 family weekends at Camp Bonus. So many of the guests who had come to the camp for that camp weekend had grown up going to summer camp at Camp Bonus. And they frequently referred to it as Neverland. And they would go there, and the grounds are beautiful, and the staff are beautiful, and in how they care for each person individually. And what your parents and you had gifted of your time and leadership to that camp truly is something quite remarkable.
Yeah. It's a wonderful place, and the Quaker values are so close to my own spiritual values that it was wonderful to combine work and my spiritual values and really work to further that commitment. But at some point, I realized a transition was needed.
So tell us about that. Wait, you served for about 20 years.
I think that we had a campership program that we would bring in kids from Trenton and Philadelphia on full camperships, as we called them. And I kept on noticing something, that these children often, when they would sit down at the table they would fill their plates very, very full. And they would just be so set on eating. And
campership kids.
The campership kids. Okay. And I thought, what is going on here? And I started thinking, I think this is about scarcity. I think this is that these children during normal times at home don't always have enough food. And so they were taking advantage of this. And I saw this over and over and over again. And I began to think about that, what that does to a child to have that kind of scarcity. I remember a child from Trenton. He really loved his 2 weeks at camp. And when it came time for him to go home, he threw all of his clothing in the woods so that he wouldn't have to go home. He wanted to stay. And that about broke my heart. I thought, there's something really wrong here. I began to think that I wanted to do more, that I loved camp, but I wanted to do more direct service for children, particularly for children who were living in very impoverished environments. And so I decided, it was time to make a change. I didn't have a plan exactly. I told my board of directors in 2008 that I was going to work 4 more years. This is like the longest transition ever.
You had a 4-year succession plan.
Exactly. I wanted to work for 4 more years because I wanted to get camp at a good place.
Any organization would be thrilled at that if somebody gave them a 4-year exit plan. And then you come across the job opening for Manna.
I did. It really jumped out at me. I have a dear friend that lives in North Wales, and she was always talking about Manna. And I was thinking, what is she talking about? But there was something about that, the posting. And I don't know if you had written it or someone else had written it.
I may have written it.
Okay. And I read it and I thought it was just like fireworks went off in my head. I was like, this is it. This is it.
A note to our listeners, at the time we were looking for the full-time executive director that was going to transition from our 30-year executive, 30? Maybe 25-year executive director, who was executive director almost since the founding of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I was the vice chair of the board, and I was chairing the executive director search committee. But you took a very bold action. So tell our listeners about what you did.
The listing was, very interesting, but Kareem, you had put your number down. So I said, okay, if he puts his number down, I'm going to call it. So I called that number, and, we talked and I guess at some point you asked me, why are you interested in it? And I just said, because I'm the person for this job, because I knew it. It was just one of those things intuitively. And I really believe in a knowledgeable intuitiveness. I just, all the things in that job I knew I could do, and I knew I could do well.
There was a little project called the North Penn Commons that you were walking into the middle of the discussions.
Yes, that was a bit of a shock.
But you came in at a time of big transition, right? So nurturing the staff, creating a solid team, because it is a shock, right?
Yes.
Moving from one leader who's been there for most of the organization's existence
Right.
to your leadership style. Very different leadership styles. But you did it, and you allowed each one of those people to thrive.
Yeah. It was a great experience to be working, and they were all young, which I love. I really, really, really love working with younger people. They had, they loved Manna. They worked hard, and I just really wanted to provide for them everything that they needed.
So what was that secret sauce? I mean, you had very little attrition in the first years going into North Penn Commons. So what would you say is your secret sauce for keeping that team glued together?
My priority is always, what does my staff need to do their jobs? You can't ask people to do jobs without giving them what they need, whether that's the correct salary, equipment, support, advice. So I really prioritize their needs. And the other thing is that because they were young, I knew they had to have an environment that really respected and appreciated just fun. So I allowed that kind of fun to come through and never really tried to squash it. We had some really, really fun times in that. But at the time they were young, and they needed to have that fun and to know that was okay. So I think fun has always been part of my secret sauce. And then I really began to be involved in the planning and the all of the discussions that went into the planning of North Penn Commons.
So let's talk about what that exactly is.
Yes.
So at a very high level, explain to the audience what the North Penn Commons.
So North Penn Commons is a collaboration between four very established nonprofits within Lansdale. And the four nonprofits are the North Penn YMCA, Manna on Main Street, the Peak Center, which is a senior adult activity center, and then Advanced Living, which develops affordable apartment homes for seniors. And so these four organizations, all resident in Lansdale, had all been thinking about capital campaigns because they all needed to either move into new facilities or to expand their facility. And Russ Johnson at the time, again, the CEO of HealthSpark, which was then the North Penn Community Health Foundation, saw that these four nonprofits were all thinking about capital campaigns.
And I think Russ funded all of our feasibility studies.
He did. And he knew that the region could not really sustain four capital campaigns. And Kareem, you were there, so you can correct me, because this is kind of the backstory that I remember. Russ got all of these four boards of directors together and discussed, what if we would develop a property and allow all of us to kind of cohabitate in this property, but also create collaborative programs. And so that's how kind of the project started. But then also the very difficult work of what does a collaborative programs look like? What does that mean? We don't want to just kind of be in the same building together. We really want to truly collaborate. What does that look like? What kind of governance structure should we have? And there were not a whole lot of models for us to go on.
This is truly a national model.
Yes. Yep. And so after many meetings and groundbreaking.
Lots of conference calls.
But we got through it all and we broke ground. And in October of 2016, and the apartments opened and Peak moved in.
Same goes in marriage, right? One partner is difficult. Yes. When you have multiple business partners, yes, especially four who are supposed to be working in concert with each other, that's challenging. Yes. What would you say is the glue that keeps it together?
I think it was because we worked so hard together to get us to where we are now, we just couldn't even imagine backing out of it. There was just, we were too far down the road. We really were. And there were times when it just seemed, wow, how are we ever going to resolve some of these differences? And there are still those times. There are times when all of us get together, on a regular basis, and there are things that come up and there are differences, but we just have to work them out because this is our home. This is where our clients and our members and the residents that are there all feel comfortable. So you just work it out. And you listen to each other and you have to compromise often. So that's what we do. And that's what we did back then as we were building it and what we do now.
So let's fast forward a little bit. Manna moves from our interim facility, it's 1,800 square feet, to new Manna, which is about how much?
It's about 2,500. So it's not hugely different.
But the pandemic comes.
Yes.
And then what happens?
So the pandemic was one of those events that truly proved the quality of Manna and the quality of support for Manna. We had to, like everyone, this isn't unique to Manna. What are you going to do? Are you either going to just kind of shut the doors and say, we can't do this because it's not going to be safe, or we don't have the money, or are you going to say, we are going to figure it out? We don't know how we're going to do it, but we're going to figure it out. And so for Manna, because we are about food, we knew we had to stay open and we knew we had to continue. And that's what we did. We didn't know exactly what to do, but we did it. We did not close one day during the pandemic.
This is exceptional, right? I mean, as we went around society during that time, there were most things closed, but Manna was able to stay open.
And amazingly, once we began messaging that to the community, the food and the money and our volunteers just continued to come in. It was amazing. I remember that probably as really the highlight of my professional life, that we were able to do this. It's not my professional highlight. It is the professional highlight that I witnessed, that together we were able to do this. And the Y had to close down. The Y and Advanced Living and Peak, they said, we will keep the lobby open so that Manna can continue to function. In this lobby, people could sit, it would be very quiet and very calm, and you could just see people kind of just relax because they knew they were going to get food. They were in a quiet place. People were orderly. It was really amazing that just that sense that we were also providing almost this haven for people just to kind of come in and be served.
How much did need grow in the pandemic? Was it 3 times?
I think so. We have the chart.
So meals served in Manna's glasses.
I know.
It comes for everybody. So 40,000 meals in 2019 goes to close to 80,000 meals in 19 and 20, and close to 100,000 meals in 21.
Right.
That has not gone down.
No.
Where today it's 160,000
meals. Yes.
That are distributed.
Yeah.
We see the stock market continues to boom right now. And even during the pandemic, it went down, but it has really boomed since. What are we seeing in our community? What are we seeing in suburban food insecurity?
So I think 2 things. I think the need has become greater, but also within that pandemic time, people became aware of Manna. And so some people who utilized us during Manna, they, even though their situation has improved, anyone who was in any kind of economic instability during the pandemic, they've never really fully recovered. And so they continue to need that food. And then a lot of the social programs that happened during the pandemic, like, do you remember the child credit, and then the checks that we all got. Well, that was great for people in economic instability. And then all of a sudden that went away. Like there was a 3-time, the SNAP payments that were increased. All that went away very suddenly. And so the people that needed food during the pandemic, they still need food. Maybe not in the same degree, but that I think has contributed in some ways to the numbers that we still see growing. And the other thing is that in this area, housing is so expensive. There just isn't enough low-income housing, so they're struggling with that. And just getting, jobs that pay any kind of living wage. So the need is still there. And we're really at a point now that we're kind of facing another cliff because we know that once the SNAP changes come as of September 1st, we're going to see a lot more people needing help.
And you're referring to the SNAP changes from the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Yes. And then also the federal cuts that are coming to food programs. Actually, that has already happened. Yeah.
So through this all, pandemic, funding cuts, changes, growing, you could see divide in food security for folks. 2 parents are working, one loses their job.
Right.
They have to pay either for the roof of the head or they pay for the food on the table.
Right.
Manna supplies that supplemental food. During this all, you have to continue to push the team, to rally the volunteers to evolve Manna itself.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So since the pandemic to now, what would you say are the top 3 things that you have, how Manna has evolved?
Yes.
First part of the question. Second part of the question is what would you say is your biggest leadership gift that enables you to achieve these things and in turn enables Manna to deliver these increased services to the community?
I always come from a place of, if you are not evolving, then you are not serving your community. You have to see what the needs are, and you have to, as an organization or as a person, you have to evolve to try to meet those needs. And after the pandemic, and actually during the pandemic, we became aware, because these people were flooding us, where have these people been? Because we knew that, some people were there only because of the pandemic. We saw obvious middle-class families coming in and getting food. But those people gradually, as the pandemic kind of waned, we didn't see them anymore. But the people that we had seen for the first time and during the pandemic and then stayed with us, all of a sudden they were much more diverse than we had ever served before. And so that was, just seeing that, we were like, something's going on here. And that something is we're not reaching all of the people that need our services in the North Penn region. That's when we started, with your and Niha's help, the 10-year campaign. This 10-year campaign was planned to go from 2021 to 2031. And we call it a North Penn where no one is hungry. We're at a point in Manna's development that we can say that. We can create, in this period of time, programs and accessibility where no one will go hungry. And we define that as anyone that does need food will be able to get it within 24 hours. So that is how we've evolved from what we saw during the pandemic and what we knew that this region needed.
And in that campaign, you've opened up a new facility.
We have.
Yeah, so tell us about that facility.
Yeah, so this is so much fun. Again, I'm a big fun person. I do what I love to do, and I try to have fun doing it. So one of the main goals of this 10-year campaign was to create an online market hub, because our pantry, or what we call our market, is a choice market. So through a software called Smart Choice, we have a great inventory. We're able to keep a big inventory of donated food and then allow people to come in twice twice a month to our market and shop based on a point value through the Smart Choice system. And so the Smart Choice system has an online component that people can order from the comfort of their home, and then come and pick up their groceries. And before our new building, the online market hub, it accounted for about 30% of the orders were online, and then the rest were all on-site shopping. So we knew if we expanded our capability to do online orders, we would attract more people. And so we needed a facility, that we needed a building. We also needed a building to warehouse all the food. We were spending a lot of money warehousing it, which is just, when you have to warehouse donated food, it just kills you.
Right.
Yes.
So
yes.
the North Penn Commons didn't have enough warehousing.
Right.
So you were renting space off-site.
Yeah.
And then you were having volunteers shuttle things back and forth.
Yeah.
Constantly all day.
So we found a building that was for sale, an old tire and auto shop right in the middle of Lansdale, very, very close to our interim home. And we were able to buy it, and we were able to renovate it.
And today, that is distributing most of your online orders.
All of the online orders go from there.
And it's through an app system?
Yes, an online system. That's that Smart Choice. And it is about 50-50. 50% of our clients come to our on-site market, and then 50% do the online hub market.
So we're what, 40% through the 10-year campaign?
Yeah, a little less. Yeah.
So 35%.
Yeah.
What's next?
That's a good question. I think we need to continue to make sure that we are very accessible to a diversity of people. And some of that is even harder than building a building, because you are really needing to convince people in a very authentic way that they are safe with you, that you are meeting their needs, not just their caloric needs, but their cultural needs, like giving them the food that is important to them.
You're talking ethnically.
Yes, right.
Appropriate food for various communities.
Exactly.
This part of Montgomery County has a very high concentration of South Asians, East Asians, Latino community, African Americans. So it's a very eclectic mix.
It is. And the more we have done to provide a diversities of food, and also we're doing a lot with language translations and the ability, if people come in, for us to just talk one back and forth through all the wonderful things that are now designed. We're seeing this increase in diversity that is coming to us. So this is really it's those really it's not a building, it's those very important intangibles that you have to work on so that you're feeding more people because they feel safe. I think it's important to understand that, when you're hungry, you still need to feel safe. You still need to feel welcomed. You still need to feel like this is a place for me.
And in today's society, especially what's happening in our country today, safety and feeling safe as you're going to get services that are critical to your sustenance and existence and your family's safety is more important than ever.
It is.
I want to really commend Manna and you on providing that evolution that enables clients to be able to feel safe.
Yeah. And it is something that is really in the fabric of Manna. And so people, they're just, when they come to Manna, they feel that care, and it's expressed in very appropriate ways.
So we're just about out of time. So I want to give you the opportunity to say, what would you say are your top two? What are your top two leadership skills that have enabled you to, from camp bonus to one of the pillars of the community, delivering these critical services to our neighbors?
For myself and for any leader, having a vision is very, very important. And that vision has to be based very deeply inside you. I think it has to be part of your spirituality. It has to be part of your training. It has to be part of your passions. Those things all have to be in line. And when you have that vision, and sometimes it's not fully formed, but if you have something inside you that is like that vision, you study it, you think about it, you give it opportunities to grow, you pray about it, you educate yourself about it, and then you make the moves, you take those steps, because without the steps, you're not going to get there. I have a passion for the equality of humanity. So, and I had the skills, I had the managerial skills to do it. So that's what kind of drove my vision to want to do something beyond where I was at Camp Bonus. So that, to me, that vision is so important. And then there's really just, really making a decision to move forward, even when there's not a clear path. And you just have to take the steps, and you get there eventually. And you have to be open to those side routes that sometimes you have to take. But keep your eye on your vision, and you'll do it.
So, final question: what would you consider your biggest achievement? What in Manna?
Oh my goodness!
In 2 sentences.
Wow, it's so hard to say. I think I just did a recent evaluation of the whole staff, and almost to a person, there was a question: how much do you like being part of the Manna team? And there was like different things. There was like not at all to I love it, and almost to a person, everyone said I love it. To me, that was, we've done something right. Because it's not that they love me. It's not even that they love Manna. It's that they love the mission and what we do. And that they may not have even have come into it with that feeling, but they have fully embraced what we do for the community. And that, to me, is a huge achievement.
Well, you've heard it here. Suzan Neiger Gould, Executive Director of Manna on Main Street. What is your website?
MannaOnMain.org.
MannaOnMain.org. Manna welcomes donations. So if anybody would like to learn more about Manna, please go to MannaOnMain.org. And as a parting thought from your host here, having worked with Suzan, one of her biggest gifts is the empathy that she brings to the mission and vision of ending hunger in this community in this area. And she has really, with her team, created an example, a national model of how to deliver these services in an empathetic way that reaches the broadest audience possible. So with that, Suzan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been my honor to serve as your board chair for a couple of years during that transition. So with that, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And we look forward to our listeners hearing our next podcast soon. And on next week's Pioneers of Possibility podcast, we interview Michael Rashid, former CEO of AmeriHealth, who explores his childhood life in segregated Alabama to how he got to the CEO position and exploring the social entrepreneurship to make the North Philly area better for all children.
This show's been produced by Danny Vagnoni with music created and written by the artist known as Sahari, with artwork produced by Kareem Afzal. I'm your host, Kareem Afzal. See you next time.